What's up guys, welcome back to my channel Anime Fiction. I'm back with a new episode of What If Naruto Conquered the Mysterious World Part 6. And if you did enjoy the video, give this video a like, and if you're new on my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more crossover fictions. Now let's begin this new video.
Chapter 13. With that issue resolved, Naruto went on a date with both girls. They simply went about their business. Except for the emotions involved, there wasn't much of a difference. Along the way, Henry and Takato, as well as Yuri, joined the gang. The group spent time in the mountains, showing their Digimon partners the city from above. The Digimon couples were still young, and they matured with each experience. Because they weren't like human babies, they matured swiftly unless the Digimon was a stage below rookie. Jack and Ryu were about 10 years old, yet they spoke as if they were in their 40s. Naruto finished up the fun by sparring with everyone in the gang. It was customary for them to enhance their talents, and he was the ideal person for the job. He was the best fighter, and he had honed his teaching skills by observing the other trainers in the family over the years. It was Naruto versus everyone, and it taught the Digimon partners how to fight alongside human companions. It was strange for Asura since he felt compelled to protect his master during the combat against the other assailants. It was the expected reaction. He could battle his master, but when others attacked, a tamer Digimon's instinct would rise. Naruto didn't want Asura to suffer mental harm as a result of his difficulties and bewilderment, so he let him join where he belonged. Asura eventually learned how to assist his master as it became Team Naruto versus everyone else. He felt proper and delighted to back him up. As the tie between master and companion grew stronger, a shout rose from his heart, unleashing his battling passion. Naruto's rage was palpable, as was his determination to fight and demolish the battlefield. He could sense it. He could picture it, a million-person battleground where he stood on top and grinned like a lunatic. When they linked and continued with his direction, Naruto's hunger for fighting consumed him. Naruto released flames, with Asura grabbing hold of them to attack, or vice versa. Naruto leaping over him to attack the foe, or both attacking from below and above at the same time. With Naruto's use of team attacks, the others began to use their new moves they had devised. They'd all done it before because they'd been battling Naruto for a long time, but Tesla and Arthur didn't have a human shape, so it was new for Henry and Takato. Hikari used a bow and her healing skill to help the party, while Aaliyah sported metallic claws like her future form and engaged in close battle and blasted rounds from her back. Yuri fought alone, but she used shackles that she could control with her mind. These were new weapons that Takato had handed her after Naruto had recommended them. She had previously used a whip. Her power was charm, and she, like Hikari, utilized it on Asura. Naruto had to repeatedly break the charm, but he didn't mind because it was building resistance. After finishing the fight, Naruto shared a brief moment with Rika. On the other hand, he had already left Carrie off at her house, where he had met one of his future adversaries. Daisuke Motomiya, also known as Davis, is one of the new Digi destined in the leader of the new generation because Takaru isn't interested in being the leader and Carrie isn't either. Carrie and TK were also temporary members of that gang, as they would accompany their brothers on most of their trips rather than joining the new group. Davis was a tall, tanned man with wavy burgundy hair and dark brown eyes. He was dressed in a dark blue bomber jacket with red and yellow flame motifs on the bottom and a bright green shirt below. In addition, he was dressed in dark olive green shorts, dark blue socks, and orange and white boots. Davis was obnoxious and prone to getting himself into mischief. Despite his bravado, Davis was a truly compassionate and loving person who was devoted to his friends. He was a staunch believer in second chances, and he was willing to extend a hand of friendship to even the most bitter adversaries if they accepted it. He refused to let up even when all seemed lost, and the new Digidestined referred to him as their leader because of his infectious optimism and drive. Although he frequently acted rashly and made blunders, his bravery in the face of overwhelming circumstances cannot be ignored. No matter how grave the circumstances, he always thought they could pull through. He was someone Tai admired and looked a lot like him, a cross between Tai and Yamato. His partner was a Vmon named Rai, who had the same kind and fun nature as Davis. That was all well and good, but there was one problem. He had feelings for Hikari. He was first harsh to TK due of their tight friendship, but they eventually reconciled and became excellent friends. On the other side, he didn't get along with Naruto when he visited the HQ a few times. Davis had made Naruto his rival after learning that Carrie liked him and had challenged him numerous times. He had clearly lost every time, and when Naruto let him win, he grew enraged. Davis disliked being handed a victory, he preferred to earn it. It was disrespectful to him. Naruto liked the guy because he reminded him of his younger self. Hikari would be content with Davis if Naruto wasn't there, but she liked Naruto to him. Davis was irritated to learn that Naruto had teamed up with another lady besides Carrie and had been assigned the duty of defeating his team. Carrie's choice of someone else was okay, but why did she allow this to happen? He genuinely wanted to punch Naruto and beat him senseless. Wasn't he lucky to have her love? Why did he have to be so avaricious?
I heard you're going to fight all of us. I know you're stronger than us, but did you hit your head? Are you really looking down on us just because leader likes you? Your Genkuman is literally nothing to my partner. You already knew Rai would become Ultra Force Vidramon. How can you disrespect us so much with your pathetic Candlemon? Davis stood outside the Digi-Destine's living quarters.
Naruto had just stopped his car and gotten out with the females when they ran into him, and he was furious. Rai appeared dissatisfied since his companion was angry and upset. Both partners were staring at him. Naruto realized what was going on and attempted to calm him down. Davis, you already know me. I would never do such a thing. It is a task that Tai has placed on my shoulders, so I don't really have a choice. I have deep respect for you and your partner. Cute little Rai has a good future, and I acknowledge it, but it isn't rude for you to look down on my partner. I know you are angry, but please don't resort to such things, it isn't right. He didn't display any pride or have a high and mighty attitude, as he always did. He disliked being impolite to others. Davis stumbled, as was his wont. It was difficult to be furious at Naruto because he never answered with rage or a snap. He was always so patient that it gave the impression that he was making fun of himself. Why didn't you respond? Even if I were beatable by some miracle, everyone on the team is gifted, and my bro Ken has Warman with the potential to become a grandest Kawagamon. Realistically, both of us working together would be more than necessary for your Candleman, regardless of how special you are. Do you realize how disappointed Ken was by your actions? He freaking looks up to you. Davis wasn't only upset with himself. Naruto's actions and words have disregarded all of his friends, especially his best friend Ken.
Ken was bright and had an opposite personality about him, but he was extremely brilliant. Naruto appealed to him because of his personality and talent. Naruto was like a big brother to him, and he was convinced that his Genkuman would be superior to all others, despite the fact that Ultra Force Vidramon was one of the strongest royal knights.
He was essentially on the same level as Omnimon. With that kind of future, Davis becomes one of the world's most important prospects. Even Grandis came near to the might of the Royal Knights and was one of the strongest bug-type Digimon, trailing only Tyrant Kabuterimon. Naruto carefully approached him and stood in front of him.
Davis, it's not his fault. You can't just look at his actions and blame him for everything that's going on. Hikari approached them, attempting to prevent a fight while using her powers to dispel the violent emotion.
Davis didn't even look at her since he was so disappointed with Hikari. She was like a pure blossom to him, untouchable by vulgarity, and now she was in a harem. She was the desired princess, and she had just accepted the proposal to become simply another woman. He didn't want to say anything that would jeopardize their friendship, so he simply ignored her statements. It was painful for him. It was quite painful for him. He had punched solid metal walls until his knuckles were broken with rage, and it was only then that he could stand here without becoming violent. Naruto could sense his emotions and sympathize with him, but he couldn't backtrack since it would be insulting to Carrie.
She was neither a toy or a puppet who needed to be guided by others. It would be really terrible if he led her to Davis when she desired to be with him.
How would someone react if someone they cared about tried to set them up? The answer was extremely depressed, and he didn't want anyone else to feel that way. I understand how you feel, but I'm not looking down on you. Davis, none of you can win against me. It's a fact. You will always lose against me while we're all in the rookie stage. Once you get higher, that will change, but at this stage, none. You guys have zero chance.
It must feel arrogant, but you know me, have I ever acted that way? Look at my partner and tell me if you believe Rai can win. Naruto had no alternative but to go for it direct so that Davis would back down and understand. He would assist him with his emotional problem later and contact Ken and Takaru, but for the time being, he needed to resolve this situation.
Relationships were sensitive, and even minor misunderstandings might sometimes derail years of friendship. His statements were classic asshat speech, but as he said, Davis recognized him. Naruto never looked down on others or spoke highly of himself, despite the fact that they could never compete with him.
But such remarks didn't persuade him because he thought they could beat him with just 2 of them. Davis finally noticed Asura before he could say anything. WTF. Davis was taken aback when he saw the Digimon. This isn't your partner. You're cheating, Davis said, accusing him of stealing a Digimon from his family because Asura had no resemblance to Candleman in any way.
He appeared to be a champion Digimon. Davis, that is Naruto's Candlemon, so don't be an idiot and just check your Digivice, Rika replied coldly, angered by his emotional breakdown. He was a total drama queen. She had the want to bind him to a chair and force him to watch Indian plays or baby shows. She couldn't decide which was worst. Davis felt compelled to lash out at the obnoxious female he despised. He removed his Digivice from his belt and pointed to Asura.
Uzumaki variant Candleman. This is a Candleman that has been transformed into a humanoid shape using Digimetal and massive amounts of energy. Candleman's golden armor allows it to withstand any attack and add weight to its attack. Its humanoid shape enables it to use close combat, flexibility, and speed that the normal version does not have. It has apertures in the armor to use its wax body, and combined with the armored shape, it has become a lethal combination. This Digimon strives to be a proficient combatant and to break free from society's rules. Davis took a step back, staring at the Digimon and the Digivice many times. Even his partner was taken aback when he saw his rival. Hoary stuff, he's so cool. No, I can't admire the opponent. Rai shook his head and attempted to glare at Asura, who returned his gaze. Rai was nearly a week old, and Asura was barely 2 days old. He couldn't figure out why Rai was staring at him since his other companion Digimon had been polite to him. What the fuck did you do to him? How the fuck? Davis was stunned by the scene and forgot about the slight. He could see why Naruto thought defeating them wasn't impossible. If he hadn't learned about it previously, this guy was going to murder his squad. They could now at least prepare for him without letting their pride get in the way. He was looking down on Candleman and now he wanted to punch himself. That's something you could do with this guy. This man was one of the worst Digimons ever. Even without his Digimon, any inexperienced tamer might slaughter him. It had strong attacks and support abilities, but it was slow and had limited mobility. All of the issues had been resolved. Digimodding existed, but it was rarely utilized on rookie Digimon. Rookie Digimon were overly soft and quickly corrupted, or just died. Even when people made changes, they never went too far. Naruto has virtually altered every aspect of his Digimon. I just did what needed to be done. I used my powers to help Asura get closer to an ideal shape. You should know that I am not going to settle for something ordinary. What if he died? He's only 1 day old. Davis was irritated by his cavalier attitude toward the situation. It was one of the most difficult tasks, and many people had lost their Digimon due to an error. Thank you for being concerned about Asura, but I was always in control. There was no risk involved, and I calculated it using the Digivice. I would never risk someone, even if it was only 1%. Moving on. I hope you understand why I wasn't afraid. Just practice hard now and prepare to fight since Asura will be more terrifying in a month. Naruto embraced him and rubbed his back as he completed his comments. Davis couldn't shove him off, so he had no choice but to accept it. Damn. I lost yet again. Just wait until I get to the champion level, and then I won't need a team to beat you. Davis didn't give up. Naruto was his opponent, and he wasn't going down without a fight just because the rival was a superior fighter with more talents. Tamer battles were split 50-50 between the Tamer and the Digimon. Naruto may be superior, but Davis can always assemble a formidable team to compensate for his shortcomings. That's better, and I'm looking forward to a good battle. I really like you guys, Naruto said as he let go of him and smiled pleasantly. He enjoyed challenges, and having a rival was a terrific thing for him. He had many creatures in this world that were stronger than his prime self, so he could enjoy fights even when he arrived, and this time he would have many individuals on his side who could match him. He was incredibly lonely the last time he was alone with only Sasuke and Kurama at his side.
That was his prime in the old world, when he had stopped fully training due to job. Here, he would transcend it, and, like his Digimon, he would upgrade himself with new world equipment and powers.
Naruto and Rika went after they finished with Davis to enjoy some alone time. They proceeded to his dojo and sparred at a leisurely speed, with Naruto directing her techniques. They had a shower and sat down once they finished. Rika made some traditional green tea, and they drank it in solitude, just enjoying each other's company. Many thoughts ran through his mind, but he shoved some of them down until he could confront them. Thoughts of his world were not uncommon, and just because he had slain a Shiki didn't mean he had nothing to be concerned about. He only wanted to know that everyone was safe and that no one in his family had died. In the previous world, he only had a little family, and it would crush his heart if they perished. Aside from that, he was thinking about how to prepare for things in this world. Naruto was well aware of the fact that he was unlucky. He was born unlucky, suffered all his life, and died early. He was fortunate this time, but given his track record, he doubted anything could be so straightforward. He was constantly concerned about a Digimon strike directly on the Uzumaki clan. Seriously, given how things had ended in his last life, he couldn't even claim that was stupid. With so many concerns for his new life and family, Naruto wants to acquire his full potential as soon as possible. According to his calculations, he should be able to reach battle arc level in 12 to 18 months. That would put him at the bottom of the mega-level Digimon hierarchy, for every mega-level Digimon had continental firepower at the very least, and no human knew the maximum. The highest point was unknown, but the Royal Knights were seen tearing through planets with ease. There were Digimon that were larger than the planet and the solar system. Knowing all of that information, Naruto was stuck in a bind because he needed to go higher than ever before. Leaving everything to chance was something he despised with all his heart. When people said such things to him, he became irritated. "What are you thinking with such a solemn expression?" Rika inquired after a few moments of glancing at his solemn expression. Naruto's expression was unusual, so she wanted to remember it. "I was just thinking about growing stronger so we don't have to worry about dying from a sudden attack," Naruto said as he looked at Rika, who was staring at him with interest. He wanted to adore her since she was a lovely girl, but there was something holding him back. He was terrified about starting a family. Hinata's tragic life had left her a widow and his children fatherless. He didn't want it to happen again. It had turned into a traumatic experience that he had yet to overcome. To make matters worse, he often felt alone because he could never disclose his secret. None of these people knew him or why he was the way he was. He wasn't a child who would take pride in the fact that he was an adult in his new life. It was preferable to drown in a puddle of shame if he was anything less. Only with that final step would this relationship progress to the next level. He couldn't share it because he was worried about their safety. Otherwise, he would have. "Really, I didn't think you'd be concerned about such things. Everything is looking fine now, and there hasn't been any major incident in a decade." Oh, Rika realized mid-sentence. She just didn't pay attention to it. Because she was goal-oriented, she was sometimes blind to the obvious until it was put in a sentence. The most recent event occurred 10 years ago, when a mega-level broke the human world together with his subordinates, and the initial action destroyed a large portion of Kyoto. When a mega-level reached the human world, millions of people killed instantly. It was a planned incident by the Akatsuki of this reality. Unlike the ninja world, the Akatsuki of this universe were fanatics who only wished to end the planet's misery. This life was meaningless to them. What kind of existence was it, living in terror of being slain by any giant Digimon? So their response was to let us all die and be free of the terror of living in fear. The security level has increased since we got new Mega Tamers, but we never know what can happen. I don't want to lose anyone. It's one of my greatest fears, Naruto said as he smoothed her stray hair and kissed her on the nose. He was expressing his emotions in order for his partner to get to know him better. He never truly told anyone about his anxieties. He seemed to strengthen them by voicing them.
With words and touch, Rika felt pleased and cozy. She got to learn more about him, things that the rest of the gang didn't know.
I always feel like a kid in front of you when you say such things. Why are you so mature? Rika wondered. Naruto remained the same no matter which memory she visited. It was honestly quite strange. You already know the answer. It's part of my power, Naruto said as he embraced her. Over the years, he had become an adept at lying, and he was not proud of it. One more question. Did you choose a harem because of us? Rika inquired as she rested on his chest. It was a thought that occurred to her after she had calmed down. I already said it was, so what exactly do you mean? I mean, you sleeping around with other people, is that related to us? Rika continued on her spontaneous thinking. Naruto couldn't help but smile as he looked into those eager eyes. She wasn't mistaken. Part of his motivation for sleeping around was because of the girls, and the other half was because of Jiraiya. Jiraiya had intended him to learn to live freely in his former world, in addition to educating him about peace and understanding. The man was a Casanova, or more precisely, a man-whore. He slept a lot and had no stable relationship since he loved Tsunade. He had children that he secretly supported without their knowledge. They had no idea they were his children until Naruto discovered them after discovering the information in Jiraiya's personal book. He had never noticed it previously because it was all written in code. One of the things he asked was that he enjoy life. Naruto quickly dismissed it because he wasn't very interested in sexual practices. Once he started doing it, it changed and he became an addict for the first few years. He couldn't live without it and relentlessly ravaged Hinata. Because of him, his unfortunate wife was unable to carry out her shinobi duties. He overcame the situation and always maintained control. However, this control spoiled and diminished the experience. It was also one of the reasons he got stuck in office employment because he just wanted to keep himself busy. He had forgotten what pleasure was, and he had no desire to experience it. Hinata was stressed and depressed as a result of her inadequacy. It was the reason why others had proposed finding another partner to fix the problem for everyone involved, and Hinata agreed. But Naruto wasn't having it. He didn't like anyone else, thus he wasn't sleeping with anyone. As a result, he was confined to his office, and his sexual life perished. As the office became his home and everything, his connection to the house weakened. He might have perished of exhaustion if he had been a normal human. Naruto, having learned from his prior experience, didn't mind sleeping around if it meant that his relationship with someone he preferred wouldn't go wrong. It was more worse for Rika and Carrie because they were weaker than Hinata. For the girls to indulge in such behaviors, he would need perfect control and chakra augmentation by the time he reached Sage mode. It'd be like Superman sleeping with a regular person. His dick would practically stab and tear them apart. It was one of the reasons why superpowered people didn't sleep with regular people. At least Naruto knew how to make his companion last, whilst others did not. Naruto didn't want the females to feel depressed since they couldn't fulfill him even slightly, so he gave in to his twisted urges to solve that problem. Remember what I said about my power? I see. We can't handle you now, so it'll be worse later, but how does that relate to this? Rika was new to all of this, so she didn't know anything about relationships. She had no idea that love and affection may fade over time due to a variety of issues, one of which was sex. Naruto was a busy guy, and his sexual desires were at their greatest after fighting, but he was always compelled to suppress them. It exacerbated his frustration and worry. Others never noticed because he never let them see him suffer. He was the type to carry others but not to be carried himself. I spoke with my grandfather, who has a similar issue, and he told me that if I didn't satisfy myself, these urges would make me depressed, which in turn would make my partner depressed. I read more about the topic and realized that even if I am okay with it now, I might not be okay later, or it will make you depressed knowing that I am not satisfied every time we do it, pushing us both away from each other.
I wish to avoid such dismal situations. I want cheerful thoughts and a happy existence. Did that answer your question? Naruto responded truthfully. He enjoyed sex and had been an addict in the past, but he was able to control himself.
He wasn't a child who could be guided by his desire. But he was always someone who thought about others, thus his actions reflected that.
Before falling in love with Rika and Carrie, He didn't know if his new love would be human or Digimon, but the same dilemma may exist with them as well. So he wanted the situation resolved before he fell into a similar depressed mood as he had with Hinata. Both were devoted to each other and went years without having any intimate contact. Hinata would have tried to get him into bed or attacked him in the office if their lives hadn't calmed down. She was well aware that it would leave both of them unsatisfied at the end of the transaction.
I understand. I knew you weren't a pervert. Thanks for removing my doubts. It felt strange not knowing the answer. Rika kissed his chin and hugged him happily. I wouldn't deny being a pervert, and I am definitely perverted in private, Naruto chuckled as he kissed her neck, tickling her.
Naruto returned home at 10 p.m. after dropping Rika off at her residence. Everyone had a hard day as usual, but there was extra excitement because of the Digimon partners. It made him pleased to see his young pals develop and become happier, and this time his buddies could stand by him.
The power disparity was so great the last time that others were pushed to the sidelines, even if they didn't show it. Everyone had hoped to grow up strong and battle together, but the future had not been kind to them. Because there was nothing spectacular anymore and they couldn't truly participate in the exciting things, all of his buddies were sidelined to relatively dull professions. Things like that made individuals think they were useless, especially those who were proud of their abilities and power. Emotions were a complicated thing, and an occurrence that seemed minor to one person could be life-changing for another. Yo! Heard my little grandson finally popped, and I arrived running through mountains and rivers just to give you a thumbs up. Naruto was hailed by his very loud and happy grandfather as he parked his car. In this planet, his name was Jiraiya Uzumaki, but his mentality and appearance were identical. In this universe, he had a happy ending like the rest of his family, and Naruto was more attached to him than his new parents.
Besides Tsunade, Iruka, Sasuke, Kakashi, Sakura, and his family, Jiraiya was the closest person to his heart, unlike Kushina and Minato.
When he was born, he wept a lot because he saw all these people. It came from both happiness and grief. Jiraiya had perished as a result of pain, which may have been averted if he had been properly trained. In some ways, his death was entirely his responsibility because he was irresponsible and a horrible instructor, but Naruto also felt guilty for not pushing Jiraiya to train him. While they were traveling across the land of fire, he had become engrossed in the good times. He'd let his happiness cloud his judgment. Whenever he became engrossed in his enjoyment, reality stomped him to the ground. Jiraiya experienced this. This occurred to Hinata.
Tsunade was the victim of this. He was a blood relative, yet he could never help her overcome the despair she buried beneath the mask.
Catastrophe after catastrophe was her life, and she only had a few people to keep her alive. Otherwise, he believed she would have committed herself long ago. His regret was that he was embarrassed to call her granny or meet her when she retired. Returning to Jiraiya, he was often light-hearted and convivial, cracking jokes at his own cost and laughing heartily afterwards. He liked to act haughty or selfish in his contacts with people, upsetting them so that he could further rile them up with his humor.
Even while entering combat, he didn't miss a chance to be flamboyant and over the top, striking kabuki stances and making spectacular self-introductions. These intros were frequently interrupted in some fashion, and Jiraiya was quick to vent his irritation at whoever was to blame. Friends and adversaries alike admired Jiraiya's quirks, marveling at how someone so outwardly irreverent could be an incredibly good fighter and commander. While he rarely said it, Jiraiya was a firm believer in peace and had a strong desire to change the world's hostility. While he wished to find a solution to the world's hatred cycle, he was never able to do so, but he didn't let that depress him and did everything he could to make the world a better place.
Most people knew him for something other than his combat abilities. He was a self-professed super pervert, and his acts revealed his obscene fantasies. He would observe gorgeous women at the gym, the pool, or the park. He would take several days off only to have sexual escapades. He had obtained the Uzumaki stamina in this world, and with his power as an A-rank tamer, he was given an additional boost. His mutation was the pervert touch and additional life. During combat, he could draw one last breath to finish the struggle.
His main partner was Samudramon known as Musashi, while his other Digimon was Tylemon known as Bunta. Samudramon appeared to be the samurai counterpart to Black Wargreymon. It had orange eyes, Silver spiky hair, 3 fingers on each foot, and bronzed claws on its hands and feet. It was dressed in a black ragged hakama, a bronze helmet with 3 white horns, a bronze chest plate and leg armor, layered shoulder, thigh, and groin armor, bronze leg armor, bronze and black gauntlets with a red wrist, and black fingerless gloves with an armored back.
The back of the gloves were black with a crimson border and 2 bronze spikes. Each shoulder and groin armor had a bronze spike on the top of each layer, and each shoulder had a huge white blade on top.
Each gauntlet also had an elbow blade. The back and at the mouth of the helmet had crimson borders, and each eye had a red stripe. The chest plate was linked to the shoulder plates by bronze track-like linkages, while the thigh plates were linked by crimson ropes. Samudraman's Kikuran swords had blades that curved inward near the hilt and outward near the top, as well as brown hilts with a little, claw-like edge at the bottom. Kikuran swords might be paired to form a bow. It was a Digimon that was stronger than Wargreymon, and Jiraiya had spent over 3 decades getting there, compared to Tai's 10 years. This monster was a subspecies of the Greymon species and was incredibly powerful because it enhanced its own strength as it won battles. It was discovered in the digital world's darkest reaches, the underworld swamp. Its distinctively formed Kikuran swords, gained via fighting expertise, left eerie streaks of light that could sever everything in their path. Jiraiya grew up to be a tall, well-built man with pale skin. He had waist-length spiky white hair that he normally wore in a ponytail, with 2 shoulder-length bangs framing his face. There were crimson lines under his eyes that ran down his cheeks.
He didn't look older than a man in his prime, even though he was in his 60s. He was robust and fit, just like the ninja world. Jiraiya, like in the previous universe, adored Naruto, even more than his son-in-law Minato or his daughter Kushina. Naruto couldn't help but smile as he saw the man give him a cheerful smile and thumbs up. He was continuously trying to make him happy. Grandpa, that is impolite. I have yet to engage in such activities because there is still some time before the bond is stabilized. Also, weren't you deep in the net ocean? Naruto approached him, and Jiraiya caught him in a bear embrace.
Well, it doesn't change the meaning. I am so proud of you, getting 2 high-class beauties like that. You got balls of steel, and even I wouldn't dare to do that. Jiraiya smiled cheerfully as he rubbed his back with excitement.
He now had new stories to tell about how his grandson approached the Nonaka clan and demanded their girl before going to see the Digi-Destined. Oh my goodness, this was going to be a riot.
Thank you for the compliment, Grandpa, but please don't spread it and brag about it. I don't want to ruin our relationship like that. Naruto knew Jiraiya had a sense of humor, but not everyone did. His statements would undoubtedly offend Riruka and Tai.
He didn't want them to get furious because they had just barely allowed him. Jiraiya sighed, looking at his solemn expression. Fine, be a party pooper. I don't know where I went wrong with you. Don't you trust my skills? Grandpa, you get drunk on happiness easily and make mistakes. It's not a big problem, but it's a problem that can be easily avoided. I know it's something you want to brag about, but I made them swear. Jiraiya's smile faded as soon as those words were spoken. What exactly did you do? I put 10 years of my freedom on the line for this relationship, and I am confident in it, so there is no reason to be concerned. You're lucky you made a deal with trustworthy people, because I would have beaten you for such reckless behavior. What were you thinking? He could be cheerful and amusing, but when he was serious, he was serious. This issue had irritated him and wrecked his mood. He was someone who placed a high emphasis on liberty. His philosophy was live freely and enjoy yourself.
There was nothing else I could do to prove my point. I was asking for a lot, so this was the price for that request, and I told them I would sleep with others as well. Get out. How the hell are you alive after saying that to their faces? Oh man, I want to share that with my guys so much. They're gonna burst a gut hearing this masterpiece. I forgive you. That was definitely the price for that bullshit and I am so proud of you. You don't have to do anything in your life, because just this is enough for a lifetime. Jiraiya entered a new level of excitement as he spun Naruto around.
He'd been whispering things into Naruto's ear for a long time, but he hadn't looked at any girls. Jiraiya was concerned that his younger grandson lacked the mental and physical ability to engage in sex. That would have been a disaster. Naruto knew he was exaggerating, but Jiraiya was excited to see what his grandchildren could do, especially the youngest. Menma was on his team, so he was always aware of how the large guy was doing, but Naruto was on his own. Ignoring that, how did you get back so quickly? Naruto inquired again, given that the net ocean was larger than the entire globe and teeming with an unbelievable number of Digimon. Jiraiya had joined the Uzumaki family squads, the Whirlpool, the Nonaka Force, and the App Divers on an adventure. He was in charge of the search for ruins or an underwater mine.
Well, life was telling us to get out of here if we didn't want to die. At first we came across Metal Seedramon of the Dark Masters fighting against one of the Masters of the Sea, Regulecusman. It was fortunate for us or most of us would have died in a conflict with either of them.
The conflict provided us the opportunity to flee, and just hours later we came across a swarm of Metal Piranimon devouring a bunch of Wamon, and if that wasn't enough, a gory Bullets Greymon was hunting nearby. With such bad luck, I gave the world the middle finger. Seriously, why not simply kill us personally if you were going to make such elaborate plans? Fortunately, this old man still had some life in him, and we encountered a couple of Marine Angemon, who helped us escape the danger zone and act like the cowards we were. All of this was spoken in a light-hearted tone, but Naruto could tell it wasn't. He could picture the terrifying situation only from these words.
He despised feeling powerless. Because all of those Digimon were mega level, even his prime would have died in such situation. Because to its larger mega population, Net Ocean was one of the worst places to explore. It was far more deadly than the surface since aquatic organisms fought constantly and grew to their full capacity much faster. Relax, kiddo, I am not going to die. I still need to see your kids grow up. There is no way a persistent bastard like me is going to croak. Tsunade would pull me out of the grave and kill me again. Jiraiya was pleased to see him care as he brushed his hair affectionately, but he was deeply concerned on the inside.
He had virtually drowned the majority of his people. For the first time in years, he had rushed back home and hugged Tsunade for hours without letting go. He had hugged everyone he loved for and had finally met Naruto, who had been waiting outside. He was only a few steps away from being a memory. But he could never be weak in front of his children since that is not how a parent or grandfather acts. Naruto absolutely understood him because it was identical to his sentiments when he fought Momoshiki and later Ashiki. He was afraid of what he would leave behind, so he returned to his family following the incident with Momoshiki. Almost dying had brought to mind what was truly important to him. "Grandpa, why did you go there? That's not a place you can go with such a small group," Naruto inquired, knowing they weren't daring. "We didn't intend to go deep into the Net Ocean. We were just going to explore a section that was the territory of a few mega for ancient ruins that could help our survival. This was information from the App Divers Poseidon, so you can say that it was trustworthy data.
We fought a battle and were forced deep into the ocean, which led to more unfortunate occurrences. Let's end that conversation here, okay?" Jiraiya responded to Naruto's question but warned him to stop thinking that way. He didn't want to talk about it.
During the escape, some of their Digimon were slain, and he himself had lost 2 of his weaker Digimon. They were like his kids. He had taught them since they were infants and then abandoned them. With their growth, they would have been ultimate in a few years, but the sea ate them away. "Grandpa, I am always available if you need to talk," Naruto said, feeling great pain from him when he spoke about it. "Haha, there's no need, your grandpa is awesome. There's no such thing as weakness in this stud body," Jiraiya said as he thumped his chest with a thud, not revealing his agony. This Jiraiya, like the other Jiraiya, never liked to share his misery with others. It was a trait he inherited from his mentor. It was simpler to bear the anguish of others than it was to bear my own. Naruto determined to follow through on his actions. If he didn't want to speak, he wouldn't ask because it would depress him. He merely needed some time to recover from his ordeal before embarking on some old-fashioned vengeance, such as torching hideouts and torturing criminals for information about your target, and all the normal stuff.
Naruto would like to take part, but he required some time to reach that level.
This was why he felt like life was a game to him. He almost lost Jiraiya again, and he would have had to wait 2 years for vengeance. He changed his mind about not killing the folks who murdered his loved ones. He was going to shred and tear everyone who was involved in the crime. He had told Pain when he was younger that he would not kill and then rehabilitate people. He spoke such things in honor of Jiraiya. Pain had killed his mentor and the majority of the village, therefore he had killed almost everyone he cared about. But he did not decide to murder Pain. He was furious and wanted to lash out, but he decided not to. Pain returned everyone and told him that he was looking forward to his future. He had a happy expression on his face. He was snarky, no matter how you look at it. He was well aware that he was going to make a mistake. Naruto was the strongest being after the conflict, and he had Sasuke, who was almost his equal. Everyone else was fodder, and he could become the overlord with a squeak if he so desired. Sasuke desired it, but Naruto battered him until he agreed to go on a journey. When he returned, he urged, "Naruto, take over as ruler. People do not deserve this level of liberty." Yeah, that journey to find his path only made him dislike mankind more. Naruto was the sort to give people complete freedom, therefore he never truly conquered any region or the planet. He let the leaders remain in charge and handled things graciously. That is, he respected international border rules while allowing criminal acts to continue. His gentle approach meant that other countries could be as greedy as they wanted without fear of him meddling.
With international borders in mind, he couldn't even visit places without drawing attention to himself. People didn't want him to show up unexpectedly.
He tolerated it by following the rules, since if he didn't, it meant he was going down the path he had forbidden everyone else from taking. Sasuke desired to reign via fear. Pain had desired to reign via fear. It was the same if he used his power. He continued to try, through his words and actions, to persuade people to change and create a better society. He established rehabilitation facilities for criminals and only executed the most serious offenders. The world he left behind wasn't perfect, but he had worked hard to make it the safest and cleanest it had ever been. There were no battles. There were no skirmishes going on. There was no animosity among nations or groups. There were only a few criminal organizations and general human greed at work. He had, in some ways, made it that difficult. He could always have taken the easy way out. One of his alternatives was to let the people decide whether or not they wanted him to be their leader. He wouldn't be breaking any regulations if he did it. But he had been trapped in the typical routines and had never given it much attention until he arrived in the current environment. He'd had ample time to consider where he'd gone wrong. For a year, he couldn't do anything except think because he was a baby. Naruto retired to his room after speaking with Jiraiya about trivial matters and how to treat girls, while Asura was sleeping since the team spar concluded. The day had been far too long. Ruri tackled him against the door as he entered the room. She was usually assertive. Her eyes twinkled with delight as she smiled at him. "See, you finally came back to me." Ruri teased as she placed her fingers on his lips. Until he utilized chakra, she was strong enough to keep him in control. Ruri came as no surprise. "I suppose you were correct. I apologize for keeping you waiting for so long," Naruto replied in a soft tone while hugging her. She was little in comparison to him and the other girls, and she barely fit into his arms. It was a pleasant sensation. Ruri had promised to return to her with his own legs. He had disputed it at the time, but now he's altered his views about the subject. It was pleasant to take care of those he cared about, and sensing their adoration made him happy. It was less than they had hoped for, but he would make them happy. "Hee. I'm simply glad you returned this early. If you had played for a longer period of time, the game would have become tedious." Ruri rubbed her head against his torso, savoring the closeness. Naruto chose to walk forward, ignoring Ruri's gloomy connotations, and gaze at the other participants. When she didn't get what she wanted, the girl became quite dangerous. Rika would have been harmful in some ways, but it would have taken time, but Ruri was incredibly dangerous right now.
There was a good likelihood she'd kidnapped him and indoctrinated him.
Moving on, the most unexpected visitor was Roberta. The chief maid of the Uzumaki residence stood there greeting him with the courtesy of a maid. Hilda sat near her, and Morrigan sat beside Eve. Roberta was a fair-skinned young lady with waist-length black hair braided in low pigtail braids with square bangs hanging over her brows, blue eyes that occasionally became dull purple, pointed canine teeth, and enormous, thick, and unnecessarily spherical glasses. She was dressed in a lengthy maid's uniform with a cross necklace. She was Myotisman's normal daughter, not one of the vampire lords under the Vampire King. This means she possessed vampire abilities and required the consumption of human or Digimon blood. She was usually chilly and professional. She had a massive arsenal of weapons and used them expertly to completely destroy all of her targets. She didn't care if her victim was a child, a woman, or an elderly person. She would kill them all. She reminded Naruto of the Anbu and their icy stares. Roberta felt greatly about her family and would go to any length to protect them, despite her frigid appearance. She has no regard for her own life and would kill herself if it meant saving her family. While she greeted him, her partner Belle Starmon, known as Grace, sat on the sofa nonchalantly, as if she owned the room. Belle Starmon was a female Beelzemon who leaned more toward the human than the demon side. She was a lovely lady with long blonde hair and 3 eyes, just like Beelzemon. She had stunning form and was dressed in black leather trousers and a leather top. She also possessed a shape-changing muffler that allowed her to attack and protect. She, unlike Beelzemon, utilized twin handguns. Unlike her master, she was a very outgoing person. She enjoyed socializing and going to parties. She was a friend of Jack's and could be found riding about at night. Aside from Grace, there was also Oga, the lower form of Hilda's spouse, Doberman. It was smaller than usual, so it appeared charming rather than a fearsome beast.
Doberman was a dog Digimon that looked like a Doberman pinscher. It had piercing red eyes and a spiked metal collar around its neck. It had a black coat with brown fur around its muzzle, paws, and inside body. It had 3 toes on each paw, each with a claw, and a blade protruded from the back of each foot. It featured gear-like protrusions on its spine and knees, as well as a ruby jewel in each thigh.
Doberman was a Digimon of the Demon Beast type. It was a hunter Digimon that was initially a virus Digimon but was mutated to become a vaccine. It was a violent Digimon that existed specifically for hunting virus Digimon, similar to Snaiman, and it couldn't be managed by an average tamer. This was the lowest version of Cerberamon and one of Plutomon's disciples. It was also the Digimon partner of Alice McCoy, the famed young witch. Magic had existed since the beginning of time, and there were many magical Digimon. One of the Digimon universes focused on magic and magical knights. I didn't expect to see you here, Roberta. As he stood in front of the girls, Naruto expressed his surprise. This was a crucial conversation to get the minor stuff out of the way because he didn't want them bothering him or making him depressed while he wasn't looking. Please accept my apologies, young master. It is a calculated move. I want to be by your side while this family continues to rise. Master Menma cannot meet such requirements. She, unlike the other 3, did not love or desire him for sex. She was reasonable, and she wanted to keep him connected to the family and prevent him from dying. Because she was a vampire, the only thing she required was blood. Because of its tremendous life energy, Naruto's blood was her favorite. She also wanted to have a powerful child, and Naruto was the appropriate companion for such a deed. If he was going to sleep around, she might as well act and achieve her objectives. She was 30 years old and had had no romantic or sexual experiences. She was a hard worker who appreciated the little things in life. What exactly are these conditions? Giving me the proper meal and a powerful child to help me complete my mission. Roberta responded calmly, and the others remained silent in her presence. She was the most powerful person in the room, and if he fought her alone, he would be crushed. Is that all? Yes, that is enough. Naruto knew she wasn't lying, but he didn't like the idea. He'd have to brighten her life in some way now that she'd become attached to him. Her desire to have a child in order to complete her purpose was also a source of concern. If he hadn't been available, she would have done it with someone else. Her perspective would have determined the child's life from the start.
I'll let you do it, but you have to learn a few things first before I give you a child. Naruto responded by walking up to his bookcase and pulling out the books about children. He had done a lot of research on these topics in order to prepare for his new life.
He vowed to be a better father this time around. The children were the greatest delight of his life, yet he had taken the wrong road. Roberta took the books and examined them with interest, saying, "Understood, and is there anything else I can do? Do you want me to accompany you for the evening? I'd like to watch if you don't mind." Grace inquired as she took out a beer bottle but did not open it and instead played with it with her muffler. If she drank while everyone else was not,
Roberta would give her the deadly stare. I had no idea you were such a perv, Grace. Eve giggled at her statements, but she didn't go too far with them. Grace could shoot her and punish her if she so desired. The distinction between an ultimate and a mega of the highest rank was enormous.
Grace was so much stronger than Ryu and Jack that they would have to fight her twice. Beelzeman's wife was the actual Bellastarman. I don't believe you should be calling me that, Eve. You're such a harlot and a total pervert. I'm very regular by those standards, giving them golden showers and having people lick your feet. Grace denied it with a wry smile as she saw Naruto's reaction. She was having fun and wanted to see how Naruto would react to one of the women who was interested in him.
Her personality, like Eve's, was focused mainly toward mischief, especially given that she was a Digimon close to a demon lord. She had fought the original Bellstarmon, who was highly playful and cracked jokes. While Beelzemon sat on his bike cleaning his rifle, she never took her seriously. He was the most neutral demon lord anyone could meet. He only got dangerous when his greed erupted. Never deny him what he desired, or the association's warning concerning him will be for naught. I am proud of it. It's entertaining to degrade people and treat them like animals. Eve wasn't some infatuated teen, therefore she had no urge to conceal her feelings. Naruto completely ignored both of them. No need, I haven't agreed to anything yet. I'm still waiting to see if I get such feelings, Naruto replied to Roberta's question. Thank you for your time, Master, I will be waiting in my room. Roberta gently bowed and excused herself. Did this disappointment you? Naruto inquired as he brushed towards Ruri and kissed her on the cheek. No, I always imagined you with Hilda. The only thing that matters to me is being with you. I'll outlive any of the other gals, so I'll get you alone eventually.
You are a weird girl, Ruri. It's preferable to being a depressed or angry girl. Well, you are not wrong. Naruto turned to Hilda as he proceeded to the sofa and laid her on it.
Naruto was taken aback by the situation as he observed her sitting comfortably. He had previously been in a situation where numerous women approached him, but this was the first time powerful women approached him, and they were all attractive.
Are you sure you're okay with me, Hilda? You know you can find a better mate. Sentry has expressed an interest, I know. He's a kind guy. You are correct, Master. You are a bad man. You're tampering with my virgin heart and now attempting to shift me to someone else. What should I do with such a cruel master? Hilda was being snarky with him now, since he was not immune. Haha, you can only continue loving this cruel master then. Naruto snatched Hilda up and smiled since it was the only suitable expression. They deserved the finest, and he would make their wishes come true. He would make them the happiest, and he would work hard on his connection this time, never letting it cool off. Denying the harem was really tough for him because he adored all of these girls. To be continued.
That's it for this part, guys. Thanks for listening to this video. I hope that you enjoyed this part of the story, and if you did, like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you all for your support, and have a great day.